Had to turn off the song. Sorry, I get overexcited when it comes to really good sounding music. And for those of you who don't know, I am Dracula, Lord of the Vampires. So, for those of you who remember me from my show, do you miss me? You know, getting a good clean shave is good, but I want to grow these facial hairs back. And for those of you who wants to know, am I really a vampire? Let me show you. Is that proof enough for you? Feels good to be back on YouTube. Very retractable. You know, Multi-Voice Reviewer did a really good job reviewing Teacher Prees, and he also reviewed Monster Musume, aka My Everyday Life with Monster Girls, although he overlooked one thing about that movie. I mean, that anime. Monster Musume have so many double entendres that it's pretty graphic. But he doesn't care, he still loves it. Although there are some scenes that he's pretty much awkward about it, but still, I would say that show would have been a PG-13 kind of series. But enough about Monster Musume! You know, I remember I only reviewed one anime, Blood Plus. You know, a one about this half-human, half-vampire named Seiya, who's a vampire hunter. And it's been a long time since I decided to review some anime. Heck, Mr. Death reviewed Death Note. So therefore, I got some more vampire anime that I would love to review for you folks. Something that I think that you all can sink your teeth into. And you know, vampire animes has gone through a long, bumpy ride throughout history. I mean, heck, I was so tickled when I heard about this one, that Netflix decided to do an animated series of Castlevania. They finally made a series of a video game where yours truly was in. Sadly, I don't have Netflix, so I can't see it. But I hear a lot of good things about it. So, I'm just dying to see it. Ah, yes. And do you know that most animes not only came from video games, most anime do come from manga comics. I mean, heck, I discovered this manga that I wish they should do an animated series based from it. Like Dracula Everlasting. It's the anime about a boy who found this locket, and it says Everlasting in it. And every time he wears that locket, he gets possessed by Dracula himself. Yours truly. And of course, this girl who really likes him are trying to help him. So he found a descendant of the Van Helsing family and the descendant of the Hawker family. And he also contacted the ghost of Bram Stoker the author who wrote the book. And they're trying their best to help the boy get the ghosts of Dracula out from his body. I mean, you should check it out. Dracula Everlasting, you should find a manga of it, because this story is really, really good, and I wish somebody should do an anime from it. But enough about this manga. It's too bad that most animes who are doing vampires anime, the very first vampire anime they made was this. I mentioned this in my Braid review, but it deserves to be told. Dracula, Surviving of the Damned. This was a very worse anime ever made back in the 90s. But this one wasn't based from manga, this one was based from the Marvel Comics. I mean, it was okay, it was close to the original comics, except there was one problem. No Braid. In 2011, they did a good animation of Braid. But the review I'm going to tell for you today is about a vampire hunter. But this vampire hunter is no ordinary vampire hunter. It's set place into the far future, where now demons and mutants exist among us, and all the vampires are blending in with mutants and demons. And one vampire hunter, he's not like any other. He is part human, part vampire, also known as the Dhampir. A Dhampir is a part human, part vampire who has all the strength, but none of the weaknesses. Kind of like Braid. And he is based from the manga, as I'm going to show for you today. Vampire Hunter D. Now I know what you're thinking. He's a vampire hunter, and his name is D. And he's part human, part vampire. But one thing that is pretty much freaky about him, his hand has a face, and it talks to him. And what his hand does, it eats dirt, and also parasites. Mutant parasites. Demonic ones. And every time when his mutant hand touched people, it would instantly set them to sleep. This manga got so popular enough, let's just say when they decided to do an animated movie based from it, it gone through a rocky start. And here it is. This is Vampire Hunter D, made back in 1980. I don't know, is it 85 or 86? Anyway, this anime, it didn't do well. Sadly, it was the bad voice acting, and also some of the animations was a little, Well, I did told you that Vampire Hunter D had gone through a rocky start. But how this story goes, it turns out that there is this innocent young girl who gets bitten by the most powerful vampire throughout history. And his name's not Dracula, I assure you. But he declared that girl as his new bride. And he wants to have an offspring of part human, part vampire. But sadly, his daughter doesn't like it. She doesn't like the idea of royal-blooded vampires mixing in with humans. And in his castle, he has so many mutated, demonic vampires living in his castle. And even there is one man who is sort of a mutant. But what he does is he can retract the pain. So if you stab him in the heart, he won't feel pain, but you will. Because he will reverse the blade into you. And of course, this young, innocent girl, she has a baby brother. And, well, cliche enough, he gets kidnapped. And Dee shows up to save him. And he also starts having some affectionate feelings for her. But he doesn't fall in love with anybody. He's a loner. Dee prefers to live by himself and not get involved with anybody else. All he does is just kills vampires and move on. More monsters and vampires, demons and mutants. But here is the shocker. When he finally destroyed the evil vampire, the head vampire had a portrait of the legendary vampire himself. Me, Dracula. But here's the shocker. He looks at Dee and he looks at the painting. And that's exactly what D stood for. You see, Vampire Hunter D is my son. From the future. So I took a human being as a bride and had an offspring. Go figure. And D lived throughout his immortality life hunting other demons, mutants, and vampires throughout history. But take my word for it. Avoid the first movie. It was no good. But not for long. Back in 2001, they decided to make a brand new Vampire Hunter D animated series. Well, not a series, a movie, actually. And this one I have on disc. And it is Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. And this anime was way better than the first Vampire Hunter D. This time it doesn't have an evil, powerful vampire living in his castle and taking a girl as his bride. In this one, D has been hired to save a girl who was kidnapped by a vampire. But he ain't the only one. It turns out there was a group of other vampire hunters who are paid to find the girl too. But as the group of vampire hunters kept getting killed, run by run, D's the only one who keep on surviving. Except one of the members of the group is a woman, and she starts surviving too. And as they're trying to get the girl, it turns out the vampire did not kidnap her. She wanted to be with him. All because she is in love with the vampire. And the vampire really loves her. And here's the girl who is one of the vampire hunters. And this is the vampire who took the girl. So it turns out it was all a big mistake. He didn't kidnap her. She wanted to be with him. Love is a strange thing. Believe me, I should know. I felt pretty bad about the multi-voice reviewer after him being dumped. But, you know, since multi-voice reviewer always like dating Filipino girls, I decided to do the same. But I'm not going after a Filipino girl. I'm going after a Filipino vampire, also known as an aswang. You see, I decided to go to the Philippines to find my aswang bride. And the reason why? The best of both worlds. Besides, me being with an aswang might be very, very different. Imagine an offspring of a vampire and an aswang. Although there's some people say that vampire cannot get pregnant, but who knows, right? Who knows? Anyway, back to the story, shall we? In this movie, turns out that this vampire who took the girl because she's in love with him, he decided to go to the castle owned by the oldest vampire who ever lived. And it ain't me, Dracula. But it was Carmilla. You know her, that lesbian vampire who prays after the young girls. Heck, Carmilla was published way before Dracula was. Way before my book. And this is Carmilla, and this is what she looks like in this anime. Right here. Of course, this one, that's just a tree witch. So, Vampire Hunter D, at first he wanted to kill the vampire, but he discovered that he really loves her, and she will sacrifice everything for him. But sadly, the vampire has been double-crossed by Carmilla, because Carmilla, she almost killed the girl, and he got really mad. He let D kill Carmilla. And as for him, he carried his nearly dead girlfriend into his rocket ship. And the rocket ship is going all the way to the moon. So he would live peacefully with his dearly beloved. I never been to the moon. It might be different. But of course, if the vampire lives in the moon, maybe the werewolves might love it there too. Of course, I'm not against werewolves. But there are other vampires who thinks of them as pathetic monsters. I'm not prejudiced towards werewolves. I mean, there are other vampires who are prejudiced. I'm only prejudiced against zombies, because they're so brainless. But believe it or not, I know some of you are thinking, since Vampire Hunter D was so good, they should do a video game, right? They did it. They made Vampire Hunter D for the PlayStation 2. But, sadly, that video game wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. The game was terrible. Awful. The horrible design and the horrible controlling of the game was horrendous. And this is how far did Vampire Hunter D go through. And if some of you who are Vampire Hunter D fans, I suggest you should buy yourself some manga. Some Vampire Hunter D mangas. Out in any comic book store. or Barnes & Noble. I mean, I hear they're selling graphic novels and mangas. So you should buy yourself some copies of Vampire Hunter D to get into the franchise. And who knows, probably they might make some more Vampire Hunter D anime. As for me, I'm dying to see Castlevania. If I ever get myself on Netflix, I might be able to have a chance to see it. But who knows? For those of you who likes my Vampire Hunter D review, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. And if you want to know what's my next review gonna be, this one is about a vampire hunting organization known as Hellsing. And this is the first manga where I became a hero in that manga and in the anime. So, if you'll excuse me, I'm getting hungry. So, this is Dracula, sexy vampire. Telling to you all, see you soon. Ah ha ha ha!